on behalf of CANASA and Security Canada to our weekly online learning session. I would like to say a special thank you to iLOQ Canada for their support and for sponsoring today's session. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Frank Hayes, Country Manager for iLOQ Canada. Frank, an industry veteran, having worked with RBH, UTC, ASA Abloy, with experience in electronic access control and working with security system integrators and locksmiths, has a broad understanding and experience selling electronic security solutions and supporting customers. Frank understands the selling proposition for both the installing company as well as the needs of the ultimate end user. Feel free to type any questions you may have during the session into the chat window, and Frank will respond during the Q&A portion roughly 20 minutes from now. I'll now turn the session over to Frank. Welcome, Frank, and thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, Steve, and good afternoon and good morning to everyone across the country, wherever you may be. I can't say it's a pleasure to see some familiar faces in there. Can't see all you guys, but anyway, I'd really appreciate you taking the time to spend about 15 to 20 minutes with us today. And as Steve said, we'll go through some stuff here for iLOQ. So without any further ado, we're new to Canada. So I should really start off with a little bit of background on the company. And we are roughly a 20-year-old business. Share windows closed. Share screen. Excuse me, folks. Sorry about that. Here we go. Okay, a little bit of, oh, my apologies, folks.
Yeah, it seems like it wants to keep jumping away from you there.
That's okay, I got it.
You got it.
Got it.
Looks good.
Okay, so sorry about that. I suppose our claim to fame is that we are the creators of the world's first NFC-powered lock. And a little bit more about the company. We are roughly 200 employees based out of Helsinki and Oulu in northern Finland. The majority of the engineering horsepower is from the Nokia background because there's a large Nokia footprint there in Finland. And the business was started 20 years ago by a locksmith by the name of Mika Pukari. And his fundamental thoughts were that in a master key system, there should be the capability to replace a missing key without having to rekey an entire system. So that was one of his main mantras in designing any of his systems. I think for all of us as Canadians, it's important to know that the Finns love Canada. They have a similar lifestyle, very similar weather, similar latitude to us, and they're hockey mad. There's no doubt about that, because every time I'm on a call with them, they know as much, if not more, about what's going on with Maple Leafs, and they're really rooting for them. Oh, I'm going to start a war here, but I'll move on. So let me describe the core of the technology here for everyone. Fundamentally, when you bring a phone to a lock, the lock has no battery. So when you bring a phone to a lock, three things happen. The first thing is the lock harvests the necessary power over NFC from the cell phone. This is the wireless charging technology used in reverse. Second thing that happens is that the lock then reads the virtual encrypted key in the phone app, and if authorized, allows the cylinder to turn. The third thing that happens is that event is instantly pushed back to the host. So it's a live, instant online log. I'll give you a better show of how it works. A typical padlock here at the bottom is what we call the reader area. It's also the knob which you turn the cylinder with. We lay the padlock on its side. We present the NFC area of your phone, be it iOS or Android, and it starts to power, read, and it gives you a visual and audible indication that the lock is open and now ready to be turned. So that's fundamentally what happens. For the phone app, the keys are issued over SMS or email, and that process is fully audited and recorded in the log. So you have full indication when the key is sent, when it's in the device, and when it's registered to the device. So you can never have someone saying, I didn't get the key. When the key gets into the phone, it is tied to the ROM ID of the hardware, so you can't be clever thinking that you take the SIM card out and you actually then bring it somewhere else. The key does not travel with the SIM card. We have iOS and Android, and no issues there. Actually, part of what delayed us coming to North America was the fact that Apple only opened up access to the NFC port on their phones to third-party developers in 2019. So we could not have stood a chance coming to this market without an iOS app. It's the dominant phone. So it's very easy to send the keys out from the manager application. And likewise, you can delete or retrieve the keys as easily as you issue them, and it's seamless and transparent to the user. Or you can actually change their access rights on the fly over the air. So you can change them from 9 to 5 to 4 to 8, issue a command, and it's in the phone instantly, as quick as any other messaging technology that's available today. If somebody, for some reason, does not want to use the phone application, we have a BLE and NFC fob, which on one charge will do 5,000 cycles. So we would think that's well over a year, and it's charged by mini USB connection. That device is capable of being updated over NFC by putting it to the back of the phone, or it can actually use BLE to the phone to talk to the host. Full indication of low battery in the event that that might occur as well. It's a useful tool, but fundamentally we believe in the fully mobile credential, as opposed to, we see the world moving away and moving into the mobile credential as opposed to a fixed key or fob type credential. Here's an indication of the range of products that are available for sale in Canada today. A very robust line of padlocks. These are all tested to the EN standards, and we have grades 3, 4, and 5, varying shackle sizes, shackle diameter, and they're IP68 rated, which means they're submersible to 1.5 meters because they're fully sealed units. There is no keyway entry point into these things. They operate from -40 to +80. And again, no maintenance on these things, which is important for somebody who's doing a large-scale deployment with a big portfolio footprint of assets and remote harsh locations. Zero maintenance. Here's a video of basically a padlock being opened from an iOS app. It powers up the lock, reads the key, and then grants access. And you simply rotate the reader area to open the cylinder. The Finns are no stranger to a bit of snow, and this is a typical day over in Finland. Padlock could spend most of its life in Finland under snow, 5 months of the year at least. So this is a padlock at a water treatment plant. Somebody goes to visit it, it could be 5 years down the road that this thing has ever been touched. And the expectation is that when the phone is presented to the padlock, it'll power up, read, and release the cylinder. So that's the level of performance that's expected in any form of access control. When you present a credential, it has to open. No ifs, ands, or buts. In our range of hardware, we also have full Euro cylinders, HalfEuro cylinders. So here's an example of the HalfEuro cylinder in use in a small key box. These are very popular at the top of condo buildings, where you want to put in a key to give someone roof access, be it a service technician for HVAC, elevator, radio gear, cellular gear out on the roof. Instead of having 10 sets of keys out there for 10 different companies, you can issue the mobile credential, which even has a limited lifespan. It's valid for 8 hours and then it just expires. If a technician says, I can't make it, somebody else has to go, you don't have to meet someone on a street corner to give them a key. You just simply send them a text. Another example of a traffic controller cabinet on the street or a fiber to the home cabinet. Our HalfEuro drops into a standard swing handle, the likes of an MK or a Dirac. And again, these are totally unattended. I'd recommend that everyone just get ready for, there'll be a little bit of noise with this one when I play this video because of all the fans humming. So, oh, it might not have come through. So this is a data center in Markham, Ontario. And again, our lock is a straight drop-in for a very modest price. No wiring, no power, and yet you have basically online performance with offline locks, because that event is now already in the host. To go along with our series, we also have cam locks, and the cam locks can be used in the likes of surface mounted key boxes, like in the top right, which are used on the perimeter of buildings. Fire departments like them to gain access to condo buildings. Instead of breaking down the front door, they present a phone, open it, take out the key, and get in the front door. The cam lock is useful in applications like electrical cabinets here on the bottom left, or storage lockers. The one in the middle is an interesting one. These are garbage bins that are being installed at no charge to the university across the US, across the campus, and the vendor provides the bins at no charge in return for getting the revenue on the advertising on the bin. In the bin is Wi-Fi equipment, and what the university gets is a full Wi-Fi grid across the entire campus at no cost. So our cam locks are securing the Wi-Fi equipment for servicing by technicians, and it's a nice, unique application. Here's another example of the cam lock in use on a vending machine. Present the phone, cam lock opens, and so in there, a technician could be going in to either gain access to the cash box to empty it, or they could be going in to replenish the liquids. And because we have an event log and we integrate with other ERP systems, that can possibly use to indicate that the technician got there at a certain time and left at a certain time, because you get the event going through for when the lock opens and when the lock closes. Another alternative to the surface mounted key box is the recessed key tube. Very popular in Europe, based on this image here. It's a standard condo building, apartment building, and there's a variety of other tubes in the background using mechanical keys, and ours is there right beside them. Again, no need for a physical key. There's no need to service that. There's no need to maintain it. There's no battery. Whenever you need to go there and open and get that key, it's there and ready to operate. Here's an example of a key tube. The key is tethered to the back end of the tube. So there are some of these in use in Western Canada. A very nice, neat, secure way of putting perimeter keys on the outside of the building. I won't go into this in too much detail. This is a very high-level overview of the software. It's cloud-based. You get access to a link to a thin client, and with username, password, and a programming token, you then have access to the system, to your system. The programming token is an integral component because it has the encryption key for your system and all the devices in your system. The entire process is audited and meets the ISO 27001 standard, which meets a certain high standard for people who are looking at that level of security. AES 256-bit encryption, and we are running the data in multiple centers around the world in an AWS type environment where upgrading and backups and all that happen seamlessly and are transparent to the users in the field. So typical applications for the systems: energy utilities, data centers, cell towers, water treatment plants. These are all spread out remote locations, harsh environments, unattended. Property management will be a future very high target market for us. It's worth talking about the main reasons: distributed infrastructure, remote locations. There may well be a need for compliance with respect to auditing as to who's coming and going, and you may be using a customer may be using a combination of employees and third-party subcontractors. There are the risks from lost keys. That goes away. It's the keys are yours. A license if you buy a license for 50 keys, it's not one and done. The 50 keys are yours, and so if you issue 40, you still have 10 left. If you take back 10, you now have 20 to use and 30 deployed. So they are yours for good and for distribution as you please. And the beauty of it is the whole thing is managed in one system. So you may have a portfolio of territories, regions, products, and it all comes back to one common interface. It's important. On the audience here today will be a combination of security system integrators, locksmiths, end users, corporate security directors. And so it's important for everyone to understand that this requires a solution approach to understand the customer's needs, to partner with the channel partner, being a locksmith or an integrator, and to validate the solution with the end user. And that's where we come in and assist with the presentations. We can show suitable references from some part of the world in that particular segment, and we can even put them in touch with references if need be. We fully understand that on a large-scale deployment, there'll probably be an initial trial, so that somebody, if they have a deployment of 2,000 or 3,000 potentially, there could well be a trial for 10 or 20 to validate the process through either the weather, the need to understand the software, how it integrates into the environment, or even how it might integrate into their ERP. So we are involved in the system planning with training, deployment, resources, and execution. I'm going to summarize now with the main advantages. There's no batteries, power, or wiring at the lock. Therefore, we have a green solution that is self-sustaining. We are not introducing any additional batteries into the equation. We have no batteries in the locks, and we do not have any keys which may have batteries involved in them. It's a challenge with batteries that they have a finite life and a cost. And for somebody who's on a large scale deployment, this all comes back to the operating expenditures that are involved in maintaining these large scale deployments. So we don't have the capital cost of the keys, nor do we have the maintenance cost of the keys. And for every 1,000 keys a customer has, 2 or 3% of them are going to be lost, broken, damaged every year, whether it's opening a tin of paint on the weekend or whether it goes through the laundry by mistake. It's just, and so at the same time, back to that scenario I described earlier on, if a technician can't make a call and somebody else has to go to that call, they're not driving somewhere to pick up a key. You just simply send them an SMS. And so your keys are fully portable, mobile, they're under your control, you know where they are at all times, and they cannot be copied or compromised. Another aspect of this is because there's no physical key, when you have a key, if John says to Michael, can I borrow your key for an hour? I need to get into that door. Sure, give it back when you're done. You will not loan your phone and also give them the password to the phone to open it, because the app won't run unless the phone is open. So this, and likewise, when you leave for work in the morning, if you've forgotten your key, you say, oh, someone's going to let me into the office. But if you've forgotten your phone, because it's such a life-connected device, you will go back and you will get it. And so, again, this is the reason for the move to the mobile credential. I mean, the day will come where the phone will be the key in your car. Manufacturers just won't give up on a $400 key just yet, but it'll come. So we eliminate the risk of lost or stolen keys. We have constant real-time communications between the credentials and the system, allowing you to alter and change the remotely issue and alter the access rights. So you can take keys back. If an employee leaves on bad terms and they take a key, and if it's an important key in a system, just think of the vulnerability in that. So this gives you full control, or again, over your keys. We have a fully supported API for integration. We're currently doing an integration with Genetec, be launched in a couple of months. And hot on the heels of that, we will then embark upon the next major players. But our API is fully open to end users who want to integrate on the front end or the back end of their ERP. An example is such that a technician may log on to their business ERP to get a work order, and when they claim the work order and it goes to them by email, the key is automatically issued to their phone at that time. The key may automatically expire 6 hours from then. Likewise, when the technician goes to site and opens the padlock, that event is recorded and can start the invoicing cycle, especially in the case of a third-party contractor. And when the padlock is closed, it stops the invoicing cycle. So if the technician was on site for 2 hours, guess what? He's billing for 2 hours. So for anyone, again, who's managing a large footprint portfolio, these are important tools when it comes to operating efficiencies. And that's where we believe we win We win because we have zero maintenance, we have no physical keys, we have that level of integration, and we take out a lot of the day-to-day running costs, headaches, and responsibilities with physical keys. At this point, I will stop. Before I stop, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today and giving us their time. You know, we are expanding, we are growing the business. We will look like several more people next year, and we have every intent. We'll be embarking upon the US at the same time, and we would love to sit down and have some discussions with everyone on potential opportunities. They may not be there in your mind now, but as they come up, I mean, this is our initial introduction and presentation to the Canadian customers, and hope to meet a lot of you again. So with that, I'll hand it back over to Steve, and thank you all again.
Thank you, Frank. That was great. If anyone has any questions, please type them into your Q&A window at the bottom of your screen now. It looks like we have a lot of them, so we'll do our best to get through. And here I go. I'll start to stumble. Frank, if the old lock is used outside of cell coverage, is the transaction information stored and forwarded?
Yes. So we have some real world scenarios where our systems are 1,000 feet down in a mine. So the key is retained in the phone, and that transaction will take place locally at the lock. When the phone comes back into cell or network coverage, the event will be pushed immediately to the host. Having said that, if somebody has a need for ultimate security, we can turn on online end-to-end authentication, meaning that when the phone is at the lock, it'll communicate instantly with the host, confirm that the key is valid at that instant, and grant access.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just lost my spot there. What Android phone manufacturers do you support?
All Android phone manufacturers. From, we're going back, we're probably looking at early 2014, 2013. I think the version is Jelly Bean and anything newer.
Okay. Would someone be able to hack it?
Well, the inventor worked with a local university in Oulu to put this thing together in the first place. It took them 2.5 years. I would say that anyone, given a Cray computer and enough time, resource, and money, anything is hackable for the devious mind. The same as a padlock. Can you cut your way through it? Sure. Well, that's why we have grade 3, 4, and 5, 8, 10, and 12 millimeter. They're a layer of security in the envelope for the ultimate customer. So some will take 20 minutes to cut through, some may take 3 hours to cut through. So ultimately, anything is hackable given time, resource, and the will to break it.
Okay, thank you. Where is the cloud-based information stored?
Today, we're looking at Finland, Germany, UK. We are now in discussion with AWS for Toronto, and so the data will be stored in Toronto, but we fully understand that on large-scale deployments, customers may well request for data residency on their side of the firewall, under their control and under their ownership. And that is a model which we have repeated in other countries, and it's a separate discussion because it has obligations for the end user when it comes to maintenance and upgrades.
Okay. Does everything need to run through the mobile app, or can it be done through the mobile browser?
The mobile app is the tool used to communicate with the lock. So you wouldn't open a browser or access it that way. The mobile app is in the phone. It talks through the NFC port to the lock.
Okay. If the padlock is cut or damaged, how is this communicated?
It is not.
Okay. Next question. What happens if the cell network goes down?
So that's a bit of an overlap, slightly overlap with the earlier question. If the cell network goes down, that is fine. So the key will still function in the phone locally at the lock. It won't stop anything. It won't have any. So because we often go to either remote locations that don't have cell coverage, or we're 1,000 foot down in a mine, but the event is stored in the app such that as soon as coverage returns, the event is pushed back to the cloud.
Great, thank you. If I get a new phone, can the license be reinstalled or is a new license required?
Um, what happens is there's a function called return and empty the key. And so basically your key is taken back out of your existing phone and just reissued to your new phone.
Okay. Is there a deadbolt version for exterior doors?
So um, I deliberately didn't show any slides on this. We are in development for the ANSI hardware at the moment with rims, kicks, morts, that kind of stuff. For those customers in this presentation listening, I'd encourage you opening a dialogue with us so that we can start to show you prototypes and have you involved in the development cycle, so that we make sure that we have an idea of where we think the roadmap should go, but we only form that with your opinion and help as well. So yes, there will be a deadbolt version. We do not have that today.
Okay, seems to be a couple of questions around that. So I'm going to lump them together. Just let me know if it's already been answered. So do you make a key and knob cylinder, mortise cylinder as option?
So they will be standard hardware in the coming months. And so, we fully another one of the reasons that is the latest coming to North America, our hardware is very Eurocentric with Norwegian, Finnish, Scandinavian, oval, Euro profile cylinders. The ANSI hardware is a large undertaking in terms of making, prototyping, approvals, standards, testing, and ultimately launching. And so we fully understand, and that is a very active part of our plan.
Okay, and I think that answered the next one. So jumping over, what type of encryption is communicated between the phone and the lock?
Very good question. So there's actually two layers. There's a PKI open channel, which actually just simply opens the channel for our AES 256-bit level of communication. So there's actually two layers of encryption going on. I sat in on an engineering level discussion on it. It was quite detailed, and a lot happens in the bits and bytes in a very, very short space of time. And it's important for us that it's locked down and it's very tight and secure, because these locks are protecting assets worth a lot of money, especially in the likes of cell tower with 5G being deployed. I mean, a tower is worth several $1 million. And so if people expect the padlock to keep the evildoers out, we can't have any weakness in our chain. And the AES, the ISO 27001 helps speak to that data integrity as well.
Okay, thank you. What is the difference between a key and a token? If there is a difference, do you charge by the token or the key?
Okay, good question. The BLE and NFC fob is a key that's used and operated on a lock. The programming token is a similar shape but different color. It does not open a lock. It is a component used for programming purposes.
Great, thank you. And this one, I guess, is along the same lines. How many locks can be accessed with one fob?
Unlimited.
Okay, well, that was a quicker answer than I was ready for.
I can say that slower.
Thank you. Is there a monthly service fee?
We don't charge monthly, we charge annually. We charge annually, yes, for the keys. But to give you an example, before somebody may lead on this, save someone leading in with another question. We have found on the few projects that we've priced so far, the annual licenses, if you compare the cost of buying intelligent keys, as an example, from any manufacturer who make them, the crossover line is roughly 12 years. So if you look at the capital outlay for 1,000 keys, as opposed to running 1,000 mobile keys, the cost annually for our license will have to add up for 12 years before it matches the initial capital cost of the 1,000 keys that you have to lay out the money for up front. Having said that, over the life of 12 years, some of those intelligent keys will have been dropped, broken, stood on, driven over, lost, whatever. And so there's probably a 2 to 3% annual recurring fee in terms of just simply maintaining those intelligent keys.
Great, thank you. We have one on how does the licensing work, but I think you covered that. Per device or per user account keys.
So there's two licenses. There's licenses on the cylinders and there's licenses on the keys.
Okay. Will it work with existing card readers?
Oh, so I didn't go into showing our online system, which as we move into multifamily housing, we will have readers on the perimeters of doors for the high volume entry points. And those readers will read fobs, phones, and ultimately 1356 megahertz credentials. And they will operate a strike, a typical electric strike for the high volume door, as opposed to operating a cylinder like I showed on some of the videos here.
Okay, thanks. Can these locks be inserted into what was a Medico keyway and or a Schlage keyway?
The ones which are in development, yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there a type of health check on a daily basis to check if the lock is still existing at a remote site?
No. And let me explain that. The lock is not powered. And so, you know, I've worked with other manufacturers. I've seen competitors' products. Some have the ability to track their whereabouts, so you know where they are. I mean, my point is, if you put a padlock on a fence and you buy the right padlock, you typically, you know where it is and you expect it to be there. If somebody compromises it, I think, you know, for somebody who's securing at that level, chances are they're going to have IP video with motion detection as well. Because as soon as somebody starts slicing through or attempting to slice through a padlock, motion detection should be sending signals, especially if it's protecting a $3 million worth of a standalone tower in the middle of nowhere.
Great, thank you. Just looking at the time here, we're going to take one more question. After that, what we'll do is send your questions over to Frank, and he'll be able to get back to you within the next few days. So I apologize for that, but we are running low on time. So last question, Frank, available direct or through distribution channels?
So let me be clear, not direct to end user, not through distribution per se, because it's a solution selling approach. And this will require work with channel partners like locksmiths and security system integrators who have the relationships with the customers, because we are the manufacturer. If something breaks, you know, in inverted commas, at 3 p.m. on a Saturday, you know, we don't roll a truck. It's the installing and servicing companies who do. And so our model and channel to market is to work with those partners, because if a replacement product is needed, they are the ones who will stock a small quantity of it, and they are the ones who will be trained on the operation of it. And so, you know, we do participate and do our part in the chain as the manufacturer, then through the channel partner, and ultimately to the end user.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Frank. That brings us to the end of today's session. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Thank you again to Frank Hayes and to iLOQ Canada for their support. And just a note, if you haven't already registered for our June virtual trade show, please do so at securitycanada.com. We look forward to seeing everyone next week. Until then, be well.
Thanks, everyone. Bye now.